It is a special Sunday. We are celebrating our seniors, we're celebrating our graduates, and just thank you guys for being here. If you're streaming with us online, thank you for being here too. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to dive right in. It seems appropriate. I seem to have been stuck on the spiritual principle of confession. Confession for the past couple of weeks has just been my focus. And I don't mind telling you, I guess confessing to you, that I had really no idea what I was going to talk about today, what I was going to say to our graduates and to you guys as well. I had a couple of different ideas that I kept trying to flesh out, but just nothing was coming together. It had a point, maybe an interesting story, but it just wasn't gelling. That wasn't until I had a conversation on Wednesday. And it was one of those conversations that just smacks you right dab in the face. And I realized I was running away from what I needed to do. I realized I was running away from what I needed to say this morning. So today's lesson, although for the graduates, I think us non-graduates may get something out of this as well. And I'm sure here in a second, especially when I start telling you what this story is about, that you'll see the irony in all of what I'm about to say. But I want to sum up right now my lesson in one short sentence. Please do not run from the Lord. Seniors, parents of seniors, senior citizens, please do not run from what the Lord is calling you to do. So today, the story I'm talking about, it may be a little unconventional for a graduation Sunday. But today I want to take you back to one of probably my favorite Old Testament stories. I want to talk about Jonah. I found out this week that Jonah is written like satire. For those of you who have been with us, for those of you who have been live streaming, you know that throughout this year, we've been talking about and focusing on story. We've been looking at elements of story and the processes that make a good story. We've been learning about conflict and trial of characters. So when I heard that the book of Jonah is written almost like an extreme comedic exaggeration of character, it had my attention. For me, that was like a brand new take on Jonah. It was like I was able to look at Jonah with a new set of eyes. And that's pretty cool because I'm sure most of you have heard this story dozens, if not hundreds of times. So I'm just going to dive right in. And I want to look at the beginning of the book of Jonah because that's just basically how the story of Jonah begins. There's no real background. You can see in verse 1, the word of the Lord, it came to Jonah. And God said, "Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come before me." But, you don't normally like to hear that in a story, but Jonah ran away from the Lord. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for port. After paying the fare, he went aboard. He went aboard to flee from the Lord. Like I said, it just dives right into the middle of the story. We're less than 3 verses in, and we already know God asked Jonah to speak to the people of Nineveh, and Jonah instead kind of looks like this. Like, nah, I'm out of here. We know what happens next. The Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break apart. All of the sailors, they were afraid, and each cried out to his own God, and they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay, and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us, so that we will not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and we know what happened. The lot fell on Jonah. Jonah tells them, "I'm a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, the God who made the sea and the dry land." I mean, I'm thinking he included that because that's what they all were hoping for right now in the midst of a storm. He made the seas and the dry land that we're all wanting right now. But this terrified the sailors, and they asked, "What have you done?" They knew Jonah was running away from the Lord because he already told them so. I mean, get this. Jonah already told all these sailors, "Hey, I'm running away from God." And they let him on the boat anyway. Jonah was like, "I'm running away from my God who made the land and the sea, but just let me on your boat so we can cross this giant body of water together. What could possibly go wrong?" Well, we know that answer. The sea got rougher and rougher, so they asked Jonah, "What should we do to make the sea calm down for us?" And Jonah says, "Pick me up and throw me into the sea, and it will become calm. I know that this is my fault." And now we get to the climax, the part of this story, wanting to know what is going to happen next. Well, think about it. He gets thrown in. They toss him into the sea, and the sea suddenly becomes still. Till all of a sudden, the water around Jonah wasn't still anymore, because the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah. And we know that Jonah ends up being stuck in the belly of that fish for 3 days and for 3 nights. I also find this interesting because that's the end of chapter 1. If it were me, I think this chain of events, I would hope, would get my attention. I'm running from the Lord. The Lord sends this strong storm to get my attention. I get thrown out of the boat. The storm immediately goes away, and there's calmness, there's peace. But that's just not how our boy Jonah sees this. He doesn't seem to get it, because we just read Jonah is in the belly of that fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And then as we go in to chapter 2, then Jonah decides, maybe I should pray about this. I've been stuck in this fish for quite a while. From inside the fish, Jonah prays to the Lord, his God, and he says, "In my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From deep in the realm of the dead, I called for help, and you listened to my cry. You hurled me into the depths, into the very heart of the sea, and the currents swirled about me. All of your waves and breakers, they swept over me. But I shout with grateful praise and will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good, and I will say, salvation comes from the Lord. Clearly, the Lord heard his prayer, right? As this is a fun word I get to say on a sermon, because then the Lord commanded the fish to vomit Jonah onto dry land. Isn't it just really a crazy sounding story? And isn't it amazing all at the same time? Especially now, because God already told Jonah once what to do. But now God comes back and has to repeat himself. And he says, "Go to Nineveh." This time, Jonah obeys. And right, we can all take a big sigh of relief because Jonah finally gets it, right? No. Sadly, no. Jonah does go to Nineveh like the Lord asked him to. He tells the Ninevites that in 40 days, Nineveh will be overthrown. And the Ninevites, they actually end up believing God. They mourn, they repent, and God spares them. But this just infuriates Jonah. It doesn't make him happy that they listen to him and they listen to God's message. It just makes him angry. So why today am I bringing up this story to you? What does this story really have to do with us? Hopefully, a lot of what I've been saying is reminding you of another very important story. But unlike Jonah, a man who just didn't get it, hopefully this is reminding you about another man who did get it. You see, this man also fell asleep on a ship. This man fell asleep during a giant storm. And his disciples, they came to him and they said, "How can you sleep? Don't you care if we perish? Don't you care if we die?" This man also knew the answer on how to stop the storm. But this man didn't have to be thrown into the ocean to stop it. He volunteered to stop the storm in a different way. By the power of his own words, he was able to say to the storm, "Peace, be still." This, of course, is Jesus, and his disciples were amazed at him and amazed at the power of his God. Folks, that's the same God that you and I serve today. That's the same God of Jonah, the God of Jesus. The God, the Father that Jesus spent his whole ministry talking about. So I dare say, if you're here today, if you're listening to this message, if you're watching this with us at home, it's not by accident. That same God still wants a relationship with you and I today. So please, I beg you, stop running from him. Stop trying to ignore him. Please, just stop. Listen. Jonah is more than just a story of exaggerated character, exaggerated plot. Jonah ultimately is a story about mercy and love. Deep mercy and deep love. Jesus offers us that same mercy and love. So again, graduates and non-graduates alike, I beg you, please stop running from the Lord. I tried to make this message a little shorter, more like a Devo, because we've done a lot of celebrating already. But if you'll have me back up here within the next month, I'll have more to tell you about this story, more that I learned, and I'll also have another confession. Because I learned throughout this week, kind of smacked me in the face, that I'm a lot more like Jonah than I care to admit. I ran from the Lord for almost 12 years. Yet the Lord continued to show me mercy, just like Jonah. And God kept providing for me, just like Jonah. But eventually, you have to stop running. If you're running from what the Lord is calling you to do today, please hear this as your call to stop. Stop running and come back. Stop running and listen to what the Lord wants you to do. It may be hard. In fact, I almost guarantee it. It may be not what you want to do or what you want to hear or where you even want to be. But if it's where the Lord wants you, it will work out for the best. So please, today, heed the message of Jonah and stop running from God.